So thank you everyone for coming. My name is E.Guzman, and today I will be talking to you guys about the development and outcomes of childhood trauma. And I have the pleasure of working with Dr. Martin throughout this 3-week journey. So starting off with our introduction, childhood trauma refers to the experience of an event or series of events that can cause emotionally painful or distressing for the child, often having long-term effects on their mental health, along with physical and emotional as well. These traumatic experiences can disrupt a child's sense of safety, stability, and well-being. And below I have just listed a few examples of childhood trauma. There's abuse, and that can come emotionally or sexually, neglect, household dysfunctions, and community and environmental. And just an example for that last one, that can be a child witnessing a natural disaster, losing their family, just to give you guys an example as to why that is there. I would like to start off with John Bowlby's attachment theory. And John Bowlby's attachment theory in the mid-20th century emphasized the importance of a secure structure between a child and their caregivers. And disruptions between this bond had seen very long-term effects psychologically and emotionally towards the child. So I thought that was an important thing to know, because this does go along with my research. Moving on to neuroscience and trauma-informed care. Advances in neuroscience have deepened the understanding of how childhood trauma affects brain development, and this has led to trauma-informed care, and that can include practice in various fields, including healthcare, social services, and education. Recognition and research. In the late 20th century, there was a big drastic change in research into the effect of childhood trauma, including the ACE, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, and that was in around the 1990s. That provided empirical evidence linking childhood trauma towards various mental health and social outcomes. Policy and advocacy. There is a constant growing recognition of the need for policies and interventions that support children who have experienced trauma. Organizations around the world are working to implement practices and prevent and address childhood trauma. The understanding and treatment have evolved significantly from a time where children were seen as lesser beings and deserving of harsh hate towards society is gradually moving towards recognizing the importance of nurturing and protecting children to ensure their healthy development. Moving on to my purpose statement. My purpose statement is what specific factors such as timing, type, severity contribute to childhood trauma mentally and physically during development. And listed below are my 3 research questions, which was what I wanted to find within my research. And I was looking at the impact of childhood trauma on the continuance on mental health and disorders of adolescents and adults. I was looking at childhood trauma between the ages of 2 and 13 and how that contributes to the variation in outcomes mentally and physically. And lastly, I was investigating what mechanisms or resilience factors have been observed to indicate long-term effects of childhood trauma on mental health outcomes and in adolescents and adults. For my methodology, this was conducted over an 8-week period. My population of interest was children between the ages of 2 and 13. I conducted a literature review consisting of quantitative data and archival information. The archival information consisted of information from the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, Texas Government Open Data Portal, Statista, and scholarly articles. And within this methodology, I was able to find trends over time, demographic breakdowns, and outcomes for children in foster care. For my limitations, there was a longitudinal challenge, such as temporal changes. Effects of childhood trauma can evolve and change over time, making it necessary for long follow-up periods to capture long-term outcomes. And methodological limitations, which is the heterogeneity of trauma. Childhood trauma includes a wide range of experiences, making it challenging to isolate the effects of just one specific type of trauma. And I did not have access to data worldwide, which is something that I would like to have in the future and in future research. this table. This is from the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I wanted to show everyone this table because it shows the alleged and confirmed victims of child abuse, as well as completed investigations from Child Protective Services. Okay, cool. And then I also, from this table, I wanted to point out children removed while receiving family-based safety services, along with the average number of children protecting purchase services, because that will bring me into my next slide. So this slide, you can see these programs, and these are the safety and purchase services provided for families, because once a child is taken away from the home, they can have the opportunity to go through these programs, whether that's by themselves or with their families. And with these programs, it has been shown to show an improvement in their lives at home. For my conclusions, through my research, I found a pattern of the increasing risk of developing mental health disorders. More specifically, the timing and nature of trauma is very important. So when it happens, and 2 and 13 are such very critical years to be going through trauma as a child. So that definitely, it wasn't surprising to see the drastic increase in mental health disorders within those children. There are various coping mechanisms that these people can go through, whether that's supportive relationships or adaptive coping strategies, and that can be a form of physical exercise or creative expression, so anything that might get their mind off of that trauma that they have been processing. As well as been addressing long-term effects, so making sure that children in the future who have been going through this process, can help enhance their well-being and reduce that societal burden of mental health, stigma, and childhood trauma. For my future research, I plan to conduct a future study in which I'm able to use qualitative inquiry to discover a more in-depth life outcome data from participants, and I would like to use this future research to conduct in-depth interviews and case studies to gain a more nuanced understanding of how these people have processed their trauma and really just get a better understanding of their experience. I've given thought about using a mixed methods approach, combining qualitative data with any available quantitative measures with the hopes of creating a more comprehensive picture of the long-term impacts of childhood trauma and how it can be achieved. Additionally, securing funding and ethical approval for such a drastic scale project will be essential just to secure that the success of the study and the validity of its findings. Ultimately, this effort aims to contribute valuable insights towards many fields and inform effective interventions for trauma survivors. I would like to acknowledge St. Edward's University, the McNair Scholars Program, Dr. Maura Martin. You have been such a pleasure to work with and such a joy. I wouldn't want to work with anyone else. You're an amazing professor. Dr. Molly Minus, although this was my first semester working with you, it has been such an amazing ride, and I thank you for getting this opportunity to come into McNair last minute and do my presentation. Pedro, thank you for all the GRE help that you've been doing with all of us throughout these last 8 weeks. And Corey, she's just such a joy to see in the McNair office, and she's just like a second mom. And so thank you to the 2024 McNair cohort.